Okay, I think we're live here. Hello everybody, how you guys doing? Let me just make sure that everything's cool and I can hear the audio and all that. Um, Cody, what's going on, man? All right, so yep, I can hear everything good. Thanks for joining, Cody. And it looks like we got another guy, Bad66 Chevelles. What's up? How's it going? Um, Welcome, guys. Thanks for joining me here. Let me open up my other thing here just to get started. Here was the war party thing that we were coloring last time. I think we might as well just continue on with this, and then we'll see if I can add like a background and stuff to it. So let's jump right into it. I guess we got a question really early in the stream from Cody here. Let's see. Why do you believe that shit will be getting worse here? Are we about to turn into Putin's Russia or something like that? Well, I was gonna kind of save that for the end of the stream, but I guess we can start off with it. What I mean, like, what things are gonna get worse. What do I mean by that? Well, there is a couple of very big crises on the horizon here that we are going to run headlong into, right? And I don't just mean like, a crisis of infrastructure or environmental crises or anything like that, or a war even. First and foremost, I have to say this without actually mentioning the word because YouTube has a habit of cutting your stream if you say the wrong thing, and which has happened in my last two streams. You know what I mean? So if you say the, let's just call it the coconut virus, right? If you say that word, YouTube's robots will descend upon you and just shut you off. Which is ridiculous because they don't tell you this in advance. They don't tell you that certain words are banned. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't be so cautious if it hasn't happened in my last two live streams. The last two live streams I've had, it just ends. And they don't even tell you, and they don't even give you a reason why. And the crappy thing about it is that there's nobody that you can go and talk to about it. You know what I mean? Like, you can't call somebody from YouTube. There's nobody. It's just basically gone. And then, a couple minutes later, somebody, another robot reviews it and then decides, oh, you didn't actually say anything bad, and then they release your stream. But by that point, the stream's over, right? And it's so, yeah, it's really not a good thing. Why is this not selecting? Oh, I have to actually select the layer. Okay. I'm still kind of getting used to this software. This is, by the way, I'm using paint.net for this, which is like a free Photoshop alternative. And still kind of learning how it works. So let's see, let's make that a little lighter. There we go. Anyway, yeah, so let's just call it the coconut virus, right? Or not even, yeah, the coconut plague there. Let's call it that. Not only is that going to get a lot worse than it already is. I mean, I know that we've all, if you've been paying attention to the news, it's kind of back with a vengeance. Especially in lots of southern states that didn't really take the stay-at-home orders seriously to begin with in round one. We're seeing a lot of that kind of thing with masks, people refusing to wear masks, stuff like that. How much of this was due to all the protests and things over the last month, we don't really know. I've seen a study that claims that it didn't, the protests and stuff didn't really influence it very much at all, and then another study that said it did. So it seems that it would have, to me. It seems like it would have, lots of people in large groups, even if they are wearing masks, still just being in proximity with somebody could, put you in danger. So I wouldn't be surprised if we, we're seeing these big jumps because of protests. Although I don't want to blame them on protesters. It's I don't know. I mean, the thing is, those people that went out and protested and are continuing to protest during a pandemic, they've accepted that risk. You know what I mean? And I think actually we're all better off because of it. Because those people are willing to go out and kind of risk their health in order to make the world a better place. You know what I mean? So I don't want to get on anybody who goes out and goes to a protest or something for participating in a large gathering, even though that's exactly what you're not supposed to do during a pandemic. It's kind of one of those things where it's necessary, in my opinion. So, but that doesn't change the fact that, infections are on the rise. So, surprisingly, there haven't really been much in the way of a spike in deaths yet. You know what I mean? And there could be several reasons for that. One of the reasons could be, well, a lot of the people who are out there protesting are younger, and as we know that, the younger you are, the more resistance you'll have to, this sickness, right? And that could be the case. So, but the thing you got to remember is that just because you're young doesn't mean you're immune, because you're not immune. And not only can it, even if you don't die, it can still really mess you up bad. You can end up in the hospital for weeks and weeks or, at a time. And there's stories of people who get out of the hospital with gigantic, unrealistic hospital bills, owing hundreds of thousands of dollars. There was a guy, the Young Turks did a story about a guy who owed $1 million after he got out of, the hospital, which is I don't understand, I mean, seriously, think about that. Think about if you go to the hospital for something and yeah, you're there for a long time and you survive, then you owe $1 million. Ridiculous. You'll never be able to pay that back. And to be honest, that dude is probably not going to try to pay it back. I wouldn't try. I would just sell my house and I just wouldn't pay it back and then eventually just declare bankruptcy because it wouldn't be possible. You know what I mean? Seriously, if I could earn $1 million, I would. Not saying that, I wouldn't want to go out, but, that's a number that's just that's not possible unless you're already rich, unless you're a fucking hedge fund manager or some shit like that. Nobody can be expected to pay back something so ridiculous like that. Got some more comments. Most of the protesters were wearing masks. I don't blame the protesters as much as those Fox News clowns that believe everything that Trump says. Yeah, that's the thing. Most of the protesters were wearing masks, not just for protection from the pandemic, but also so that they wouldn't be identified, which is a smart thing, right? Funny story, because before that, a lot of places around the country, right, traditionally have tried to outlaw wearing masks at protests. That was a thing, if I remember right, back in, oh wait, that's way too dark. If I remember right, back in, 05, 06, 07, there were lots of moves around the country to criminalize mask wearing at protests, right? Specifically for that reason, because people would wear face coverings because they didn't want the police to find out who they were and then get, arrested after the fact for retribution arrests and stuff like that. So now it's suddenly okay to wear a mask at a protest because of the pandemic. I mean, it's funny how that worked out, right? Let's see, you got a bunch of comments here. Watching Fox News feels like watching East German state TV. Did they nominate Biden? Okay, guys, I'm not going to read every comment, but let me just kind of scan over them and see if there's any questions. Upping the pro-police, anti-police brutality protest. Yes, they have. Okay, did you notice that Fox News has been upping the pro-police, anti-police brutality protest propaganda? They definitely have. Because, that's their audience, man. I mean, I don't think we could really expect anything better from Fox News. We know who they are, right? They know where their bread is buttered. So yeah, obviously they're going to go for that. You know what I think it is? I think really they kind of understand that the last 3.5 years have been a disaster since the Republicans have been in charge, and it's just kind of been one shit show after another. And the way, and they kind of are sort of preparing themselves for like a shellacking this November. Like, you know what I mean? Like, pretty much all of the polls out there are not only saying that Trump is going to get God stomped, but chances are the Republicans are going to lose the House and the Senate. Like they already don't have the House. They're probably going to lose the Senate too. And it's just kind of how the cookies sort of crumbled this time. Like, they have to defend way more seats this time around than the Democrats do and stuff like that. And in a lot of even like southern conservative states, they're polling really, really bad, you know? And it's like, now here's the thing, okay? Because we shouldn't really be, if you're counting on, you know, the Democrats winning in the fall and making everything okay, that's not something you should count on, because chances are it's not going to happen, right? And when I say that, because if I remember, from past experience, right, in 2012, when Obama was reelected, they told us the same thing. They basically said there was so much confidence on the part of Democratic, the Democratic establishment, that they even told us that there's a good chance that the Republican Party would turn into a regional party at that time. And I remember watching that, thinking like, wow, are they really done for? Like, I remember thinking that. Are they really done for here? And they weren't. Obviously the Republicans weren't. They came back with a vengeance. Right. Let's make this dragon red. Here we go. Red dragon. And so, yeah, so it's something that you can't, you can't really take that for granted. You know what I mean? And I think in a lot of places where, even if the polls do say, the Democrats should God stomp, chances are they probably won't. You know what I mean? And we can't really know one way or the other until election day comes around anyway. So it's sort of like, that's no excuse. We should all really, work hard and donate our time and money in local races as well, not just on national races, but local races too, and support the candidates that you want to actually see get elected. I had a bunch of stuff like planned for this, but now we're just talking. But that's cool. Let me read through some of your other stuff here. Declaring that crime rates in places like Chicago and New York. Yeah. See, the thing with the crime rates, that's always sort of like the conservative go-to point. When they always kind of rely on that criminal, like law and order sort of thing. You know what I mean? Like, oh, we're the ones we're supporting the cops, and we want to protect you from the evil, tree-hugging hippies and their gang member friends and shit like that. Right. And they like to frame it in such a way that, if you let a Democrat win, then suddenly the streets are going to be overrun with crime. And what that really is, it's a thinly veiled racist sort of dog whistle. You know what I mean? It's kind of like calling, instead of the N-word, it's like saying thug. It's definitely, the message is out there. The message is, vote for Republicans or black people are going to like roam the streets and rape you. Rape white women and stuff like that. That's the fucking dog whistle there. And yeah, they're definitely pushing that narrative forward, and it's because that's all they got. That's the thing. It's all they got, because they don't have any policy wins. That I was gonna do an actual video on this, because since it looks like we're coming up on the end of the first Trump term, hopefully the only Trump term. And he made a bunch of different promises and stuff in the beginning. What was he going to give us when he was elected? And can you really think about what did Donald Trump actually accomplish? He didn't really accomplish very much. I mean, forget his campaign promises. Oh, Mexico's going to build the wall. We're going to build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it. Blah, blah, blah. We all knew that shit was fantasy when he was running. That was never going to happen. Even if you wanted it to happen, even if you were a Trump supporter, you should have known that there was never going to be a southern border wall, like fucking the same, like the Great Wall of fucking China in between the United States and Mexico. That was fantasy. That was never going to happen. It was never going to be something that Mexico would pay for. That's just not happening. So you know. But what can you name actually any accomplishments that Donald Trump has actually done besides two Supreme Court justices? That's it. And that you can't even really call those accomplishments because basically that's the president's duty. So any president, if you would nominate Supreme Court justices, right? If there was an opening in the Supreme Court. So that's not like a policy, you know, legislative or policy accomplishment. That's just the president doing what the president is supposed to fucking do. What has he done? You know, I mean, something like, say, the ACA. You know, the ACA is Obama's supreme kind of defining legislative victory. You know, I mean, there were others that he also did as well. You know, in particular, gay marriage. Basically, like he allowed gay marriage to become the law of the land by not defending it, right? But you know, the ACA is like his flagship accomplishment. So what's Donald Trump's flagship accomplishment? What? Can't name a thing. Can't name anything, right? I mean, there were good things that Donald Trump has signed his name onto. Whether or not he actually advocated for any of those things is besides the point. Like criminal justice reform, that's actually a good thing, that a good bill that he signed, right? You notice Donald Trump and the Republicans are not going around touting how they like signed this this groundbreaking criminal justice reform bill. You know, no, because they don't really give a shit. Because they also know that that's a negative to their base. You know, so they're not actually talking about that. I mean, so what has he actually done besides that? You know, cut regulations, right? Well, that's like, you know, basically through executive order, right? That's all shit that'll be undone on, you know, day one of the Biden presidency, you know? I mean, seriously, like, it's basically just been 3 years of a colossal waste of time. You know, while all of the problems we had in 2016 have just gotten worse. You know, the environment has gotten worse. Um, you know, race relations in the country have gotten, police brutality gotten way worse. You know, you got to remember that none of this shit just started happening just because Donald Trump was elected. You know, we've had all of these problems for years. You know, years and years and years. It's not like people just suddenly decided to go protest today. You know, jobs, the economy is in the fucking toilet. You know, and that was going to be Donald Trump's accomplishment. Oh yeah, well, the economy is really great under me, but it wasn't. It wasn't great. You know, before the coconut virus, right? I have to make sure I don't say that word. Before that, the economy was shit. It was horrible. It was like inflated, you know. And the stock market was fantastic. So yeah, your 401k was probably doing gangbusters. Not so much anymore, you know. And here's the thing is, it was kind of on its way down before the lockdown started. You know what I mean? It was because it was a house of cards that had, you know, basically an economy catered to the 1%. That's what we were living in, you know. And like I said before on my other streams, you know, like I said, oh, it was, you know, unemployment was low. Yeah, it was low because, you know, you could get a shitty job if you needed a job. You can get a crappy job working retail or something for minimum wage. And what happens if that's the only job you can get, right? You have to get another one, right? Because you can't live on one minimum wage job. You have to get two of them, three of them. You know, I don't know about you guys. I've had to work two minimum wage jobs at once. It's fucking hell, you know, especially the leaving one job and going to the next one on the same day. I don't know how people do that shit. And there's millions of people out there that's the choice they have to make, you know. And we basically didn't see any real growth in the economy for normal people. Not really, you know. The thing is, you know, outsourcing continues to be a problem. You know, automation continues to be a problem. That's actually another one of those looming crises I was mentioning before. The automation crisis. That's coming soon. You know, I mean, you got to think like, okay, today, right? Most people in the country get their first work experience in fast food. You know, basically not even like a retail place, basically fast food restaurant. Working at McDonald's or something like that, or Burger King or Taco Bell or whatever. You know, that was actually my first. Well, it wasn't a fast food restaurant, but my first ever job ever. I was bussing tables in a restaurant. It was a sit down place, but still, it was a burger joint, so I guess it does count as fast food. Anyway, so within 30 years, lots of those, not even 30 years, probably 15 to 20 years, a lot of those jobs are going to be automated. So what do you do when you're in a fast food place, right? Basically all you're really doing is pushing buttons. you know you're at a fryer, right? You're frying your things, you have timers going off, thing beeps, you have to flip the burger, beeps again, flip it again, put it in the thing, blah blah blah. You're basically just like, doing automated tasks. They have it broken down, like say in like a McDonald's or something like that. The tasks are broken down in such a way that anybody can do them. So it doesn't require any real skill, right? Well, it's not that far removed from an actual real robot doing those jobs. Well, how long before they get an automatic burger flipper, right? They already have those machines where you walk up and put your own order in. Excuse me. Right. And that's, so you don't even need cashiers anymore. That was the one thing a computer couldn't do, right? That normal people had to do. Actually sit there, deal with a customer, give them correct change, listen to their, complaints, shit like that, right? Not very long before you've already got these little automatic ordering stations, right? Which are very similar to, like, if you go into a grocery store and they have those self-checkout places, right? It's kind of like that. Now they have those so now there's a whole nother, like, job gone, right? Pretty soon, within 20 years, you go into a fast food place, the only guy that's going to be working there is like a guy with a mop cleaning the place up, right? And then maybe like a dude who like fixes the automated system when it breaks. And that guy will actually get paid a little bit of money because he's going to have some actual real skill, right? So what happens when, all of these people, like, when you're a teenager, that's your first job that you get in a place like that. Now all of a sudden that place doesn't hire anymore. So where are all these people, kids in the future, where are they going to get their first job experience, right? Doing what? Driving an Uber? Well, that's going away too. I don't know if you know, but the self-driving cars are already a thing, and within 20 years, all of those jobs that rely on cars that drive, right? Truckers, fucking delivery guys, right? So if you're like, driving an Uber right now or Grubhub or something, your job's in danger. Maybe hopefully in 30 years you won't have to do that anymore. But I don't even think 30 years. I think it's going to be more like 15, really. There's trucks right now, like, they did a successful run where like an automated truck drove across the country and delivered some stuff, right? And how long before that's just a thing? And I mean, how many truck drivers do we have in the country? Thousands, hundreds of thousands of truck drivers. You know what I mean? Because it's a job that anybody can, you just have to get a little bit of training. You have to like pass so you have to get like a certification to drive a truck, right? And it's a thing that like hundreds of thousands of people do because it's something that you can get without having to go to college, because college is a fucking arm and a leg nowadays. Right? And increasingly people can't afford the obscene amount of money it costs for higher education in the country, and I can understand why. Like, I remember when I graduated high school, this was in the early 90s, right? And I worked it out, it would have cost me somewhere around $9,800 to get a 4-year degree, right? That same thing is now doubled, and that's going to a state school like UC, a UC or something like that, right? Now that same price is doubled, right? So now it's going to cost for the same degree that 20 years ago was about. Let's just round it to $10,000. It's roughly twice that now. Just for like, and this is like for not even a prestigious kind of school, right? This is just for like a state school, something like that. You know, um, and then let alone if you want to actually go to like something that's a little more, has a little bit more prestige to it. You know what I mean? Like the school I wanted to go to Cal Arts, which is an art school in, California. And even way back then, way back in the early 90s, it was $30,000 to go to that for like 2 years, right? And I can't even imagine how much the shit costs nowadays, right? It must be prohibitively expensive, but people do it. People do it because it's one of the few ways that you can, you know, guarantee a certain level of income in your future. You know what I mean? Like, basically, every person I know who took that step and actually took on the debt to do that went off to have a career, And that's where basically, like, all of the creators from Cartoon Network and shit, they all go to Cal Arts, stuff like that. Anyway, but here's the thing. It's no guarantee, just because you go out and you get a degree and stuff, it's no guarantee that you're actually going to make all that money. And so you have to kind of think, cost benefit analysis, right? Is the chances of me, is it worth paying all of this, right, for the chance to make X, Y, Z? You know what I mean? And most of the time, yes. If you're going to go off, you're going to be a programmer or something, then you need that education. You need that certification, and I'm not saying it's impossible to go off and have a professional career without a college degree. I mean, I'm kind of living proof of that myself, but it's harder. It's harder and longer. You'll work harder, you'll get paid less for the same result, stuff like that. Well, now it's sort of like, so now you're getting basically something like 50% of adults in the country go on to higher education. That number is, kind of held steady over several decades. And usually when the economy is bad, people go back to school, right? Because it's sort of a hedge against bad economic future. You know what I mean? So that's what kind of happened in 2008. College enrollment went way up after, the economy collapsed, right? Not so much this time. It's not going to happen this time because, of our pandemic, right? It's, so that's, and it's not even, the other thing is that it's ridiculously expensive. So how do you get a loan to go to school? Let's say that, the college that used to cost 10 grand, I don't even know how much it is now, but let's just say it's $20,000 now. That's probably low, right? What bank is going to give you $20,000 to go to school if you don't have a source of income that can actually conceivably pay that off, right? Not very many, right? The ones that and there'll be a ridiculously high interest rate, 22, 23, 24% interest, and you'll end up paying back $120,000. It'll be so ridiculously expensive. And I'm probably lowballing this. It's probably way more, right, than what I'm even, it's just kind of like, I don't really see that being it's not something that's going to happen this time. It's a problem. It's a serious problem. And it's a problem that other countries on Earth don't have. This is why, when you hear like progressive politicians talking about free college, this is what they're talking about, People in Germany don't have this problem. People in the UK, because it's merit-based over there. You take a test, you pass the test. If there's room, you make it, and you get admitted, and you go to do your schooling and stuff like that, and you don't owe $200,000 by the time you get out of school, right? Um, it's basically something that's holding people back in this country. Let's see. We got some more comments. Let's see. Let me read through some more. God damn, Cody. You got a lot to say today, man. Let's see. They bring it up. Black people defend police. Blah, blah, blah. It's a very good school per year. Tuition for Stony Brook University is about $8,000 a year just with tuition. So yeah, $8,000 a year times 4 years. So $32,000. That's a lot of money, man. And you think about that's like 32 grand, just when you're getting out of like imagine you go to school, for 4 years, you get all that, you accomplish it, and now immediately you owe, like you get a job and immediately you have to pay something like $500 to $600 a month for the next decade in order to pay that off. If even that. I mean, I don't even know how much it would be, but it's like there's people that are paying college loans off well into their 50s, into their 40s, into their 50s, right? That shouldn't be a lot. There's something wrong with that. You know what I mean? There's something wrong when the price of admission into the economy is something that takes decades to pay off. Let's see here. Check the video resolution. What the hell is going on? Sorry guys, let me see what's going on here with my video resolution. Why is it funky? Current resolution is blah blah, what is not optimal. Yeah, whatever. You can still see shit, right? Let me know if it like dies or whatever, please let me know. Not to mention that our expensive higher education system has hurt our reputation along with Trump. This is why we're recruiting less foreign students. Yes. And that's a bad thing, man. It's bad because when people go to college in the United States, they tend to stay in the United States and they contribute to the economy here. And so now what's happening is that they're just not coming here anymore. So our school, makes less money, right? Which I know is kind of bullshit too because, for-profit schooling, but whatever. And the economy ends up suffering because we're not getting the best and brightest like we used to. We used to get, and yeah, that's like kind of by design, exactly what you're saying. The Trump people are making it harder for foreign students to come to the United States. And so they're basically taking their innovation back to their own countries instead of staying here and innovating. And it's like, it's they don't understand. That's the thing. It's because our foreign policy is like being run by people like Steve Bannon, and this ridiculous America First shit. And they don't understand that it's like, it's not about keeping people out. When you keep people out, then the people you need to come here to do the work, that have the skills that we need to do the work aren't able to come here, And this is the reasoning. The reasoning is, oh, well, they'll be forced to hire citizens. That's what they're basically saying. We're going to kick out all of the, we're going to make it impossible to get an H-1B1 visa or whatever, and we're going to kick out all the foreign students and all that. So they'll have to take American citizens, and they'll have to take American citizens in the schools and blah, blah, blah. What they don't get is that, the people here don't have that. It's like they don't have those skills. I don't know. They don't have it. There's a reason why there's demand for foreign workers with, IT skills. It's because there's not enough people in the country that have those skills that we need because our education system sucks, If the educational system was better here and we could actually recruit, we could find the people we needed, then they wouldn't have to recruit foreigners, And it's this misconception that, oh, well, because they're paying them less. No, they're not. No, they're not. For high-tech, highly skilled IT jobs, no. They're not paying these guys less when they come here on H-1B. I think that's what, H-1B1 visa or whatever. The foreign IT, They're not getting paid less. They're getting paid the market rate here, because these are the people that have the skills we need. And other countries need these people too. So they're coming here because they make more money here, right? And if they can't make the money here, then they would go to Europe, they would go to Asia, right? They'll go to the places that pays them what they want, what they demand, what the demand is, right? And so that's a complete, whenever you hear right wingers and shit talking about that, oh, these guys get paid less and they're driving down wages. No, they're not. Unskilled labor may drive down wages, but not highly skilled labor. Highly skilled labor raises wages, right? Because these guys aren't going to work for nothing. I know this firsthand. I mean, shit. Um, let's see. Hassan Minaj has done a great show on college. Yes, he did. I saw that show. It was fantastic. Let's see. It's a false dichotomy to argue that either expensive education or more innovation. Well, what I mean by that is that if we don't attract the students here, like, basically what I'm saying is, when you go to a country to go to their school and stuff, a certain number of those students will stay in that country. You know, my sister, for example, went to school. She actually um, lives in England right now. And although she didn't go to school there, she went over there for a job and like stayed. But there's like, for example, people who will go to Oxford and then they'll settle in England. And it's because they'll put down roots there. You know what I mean? Like, that's what you do. You go to school, you meet people that you're friends with, and they become your lifelong friends. And then you know a number of those people, not all of them, but a portion of those people will settle in that community, right? And some of those people will go on to start businesses, you know, and contribute to the economy of that thing. See, it's a misconception to say that, when a foreigner comes to your country and starts a business, like they don't steal people's jobs, they create jobs. The more people you have, the more jobs get created because the more, demand there are for goods and services, right? And that's just kind of how it is. So it's like a small town is going to have a smaller economy than a big city. And that's, just by virtue of numbers. Well, the more educated your populace, right, the better the economy is going to be as well. And, so it's not only just attracting the right people that give you the right innovation, but, attracting people like, the thing is we live in a, capitalist society. For all the good and all the bad, that's the society we live in, right? Well, you know, we need people that will contribute to that economy. If you want to keep a capitalist society going, then you need to have people, business owners, right? Most of the jobs in the country, something like, what is it, 40%, I think 50% of all the jobs in the country still come from small businesses, right? And those being businesses with less than 50 employees. Well, those are the kinds of businesses that college, someone starts when they get out of college, right? So it's sort of like you kind of want to attract people from other countries to come go to school in your country because then they'll contribute to your economy. Some of them will stay and start whatever business they were planning on starting in your country. And that's what you want. You want that because it gives jobs to your people and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I mean by that. Like, let me see. The reality is that college government innovation requires more funding, not for profit. Yeah, that exactly. You're correct there. It's there are ways of stimulating that type of innovation that beyond just for-profit schooling, obviously. The biggest way to do that is exactly what you just said. Government investment, right? Which is something that a lot of conservatives and libertarians don't want to admit. They don't want to admit that a lot of the innovation and in our society that's happened over the last 100 years or so has occurred because of government investment, right? Things like the space program, for example, government investment in computer technology and stuff like that, kind of got the technologies off the ground back in the 50s and 60s and stuff. And then private companies take it and run with it, You know what I mean? And that's kind of, you know, a lot of what we have today are the result of, you know, research that was initially funded by the government. Everything from cell phones to fucking Velcro. You know what I mean? So yeah, we're definitely in an agreement there, you know. Um, anyway. Damn, Cody, dude, you should do your own live stream, man. You seriously, like, got a lot of good things to say, dude. Reality is that college government innovation requires more funding. Yeah, okay. So, but anyway, there was one thing I did want to talk about. I actually had some prepared stuff. That's good. We started off. Wow, it's already been 40 minutes. We're just like chatting and everything. I did have some prepared stuff that I wanted to talk about. The big thing was, of course, here, her name was Summer Taylor. And that's who I've got in the, you know, the woman that's in the thumbnail for this stream is Summer Taylor. And if you don't know who she is, she was one of the, she was a protester in Seattle who was struck by a car and has recently died. So there was a video which I don't know if I should show it because the YouTube robots will probably kill my stream if I try to show it. Anyway, Summer Taylor was, they were protesting on a highway, basically blocking off a highway, and this car rolls up. And this occurred at 1 in the morning, right? Car rolls up, goes past several barricades, and runs into the protesters. Right. Now, I haven't heard much about the motive of the person that did this, whether or not it was some like MAGA chud or something. I know that the person who did it was black. So it wasn't like a fucking white supremacist that ran these people over or something. But anyway, basically, the guy that did it has been charged with vehicular homicide. And it just seems like, you know, we're starting to see lots of instances of this sort of like, you know, assault happening against protesters, people getting run over, you know. And I wanted to kind of show you guys, because this is something that's really like, you know, I wanted to bring to attention some of this. Because it's something that's been happening for quite a while. Like, so back in like 2015, 2016, right, when there were the protests against Michael Brown. I mean, after the Michael Brown shooting, I don't know if you guys remember, the same kind of protests happened in Baltimore, and basically, you know, memes started going around on the right wing, in right wing circles, about how it's okay to just run people over if they're blocking the street, right? And this was something that's been happening for, you know, several years now. So I want to kind of show you guys this here. This is a just to kind of show you what's like what I'm talking about. This is an article from 2016. So you can see the date on there, 2016. St. Paul cop Jeff Rothheckler on leave after run them over Facebook post. So this guy's a cop, J.M. Roth. Run them over, keep traffic flowing, and don't slow down for any of these idiots who try to block the street. Here is the deal. You continue to drive, and if you hit someone, make sure you call 911 to report the accident and meet the cops or block or two away, and you can justify stopping further away because you feared for your safety. Since in the past, this group has been showing a propensity towards violence. Since they are trying to block the street and or cross where there is no crossing, you should not be charged with anything. Now these idiots could try and sue you in civil court, but remember it would be a jury trial, so most likely will come out in your favor. So basically, 2016, I mean, that's 4 years ago now, you know, about. It's not like this is new shit, and, you know, there's like basically memes going around for years and years and years, you know, starting on like places like 4chan and stuff about, you know, running over protesters, you know, being spread by crazy people on Facebook, that kind of thing. And now suddenly we're starting to see it, you know, lots of different people, you know, different places, right, Here we go. New York, Denver, Minneapolis. I got another one I want to show you guys, and I will put the links to all of this stuff down in the bottom. In fact, you know what? Let me just put here. Here's the link we're looking at now. There's that guy, right? So this is. Let me move this over. Another one that I found here. Goddamn ads. New York, Denver, Minneapolis, disturbing videos show vehicles plowing into George Floyd protests across the USA. So, something that's starting to happen all over the place, all around the country. So we got, semi-truck drove into a large crowd of protesters calling for the justice in Minneapolis, and then videos of all these people basically, I won't read through this entire thing, but it basically mentions 3 or 4 different instances where, right-wing crazy people are starting to just plow into protesters. We saw this in Seattle a few weeks ago, and it's really kind of like people are starting to kind of step shit up a little bit. You know what I mean? And it's really sad and disturbing, first off, to see this kind of escalation in violence, right? Because it never ends well. You know what I mean? Whenever because what would happen here? Like I also saw another article basically where they were saying that the protesters are starting to show up armed, and there was for example, this BLM contingent of people that showed up, and they were all armed with basically rifles that went to protest at this Confederate statue. I don't know if you may have seen that on the news. In fact, you know what? I'm going to look that up just to kind of show you guys. Say BLM armed. Black Lives Matter activists and right-wing groups unite. Okay. Let's see. Nope. Here we go. USA armed BLM protesters stand guard around Robert E. Lee statue. Let me just find one that isn't a video. Robert E. Lee. So we can see pictures of this or something. Anyway, well, you know what? I'm not going to waste any more time trying to find it. But basically, there was a news story about a bunch of BLM protesters that came, and they kind of looked like the same thing that these militia guys were. They had body armor and rifles and stuff. And wait a minute, are we still going? Why is my okay? Yeah, we are. Okay, good. And and it just seems to me that it's starting to escalate, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And that's never a good thing, right? Because it's only a matter of time. You get too many people with guns in the same area who hate each other, it's only a matter of time before a shootout happens, right? And that would be very bad for everyone involved. If we suddenly get armed confrontations in the street between armed BLM protesters and right-wing wacko anti-protesters. Very bad, right? And just for, the reason being is because that's all, first off, that's all the excuse they would need in order to clamp down on free speech even more, because no city or governor of any state is going to allow people shootouts in the street. It doesn't matter what your politics are at that point. No one's gonna, because at that point it's not a protest anymore. It's basically like a fucking, it's basically like a civil war breaking out. So, people think oh, the civil war is gonna be us versus the government. Well, maybe it won't be. Maybe it'll just be these two factions with the government trying to, trying to intercede and stop it all from happening, right? That's very bad. We should really need to prevent that from happening, right? Prevent it from happening, because then at that point, when it becomes, violence, when it becomes war like that, then all bets are off, and before you know it, people who are saying the same shit online, instead of just getting canceled You know, instead of just being publicly shamed or canceled or made to look bad or whatever, before you know it, there's guys showing up at your house with weapons, and not just, think of it the other way too, right? The right wing guys, they're perfectly capable of finding out who you are online as well and showing up at your place with weapons as well. We shouldn't go down that road, is what I'm saying. We shouldn't go down the road of armed confrontation with people that we disagree with politically. I can't support that. Anybody who, so basically, and I understand why these people are showing up to BLM, protests with weapons. They're doing it for defense because, the fucking MAGA chuds are coming with weapons, right? That's kind of the reason why, the whole thing, the chop place got shut down. You know what I mean? The Seattle protest zone got shut down is because they couldn't guarantee safety of people in there because basically fucking right-wingers were going around shooting people, and that's at least one of the 4 people who were murdered there, who were shot there, reported that the people who shot them were fucking Proud Boys, or were armed Proud Boys that came around and killed them. I haven't been able to find out very much information on the other victims at that place. So yeah, this is one of the ways that it's going to get a lot worse in this country, right? If this continues and we continue to have, armed confrontations between protesters, like if that starts happening, shit is going to hit the fan pretty bad here, I hope that doesn't happen. I really hope. I think most of the people on the left believe in, peaceful protest, right? Most of them do. There is a growing, I actually kind of mentioned this in one of my other streams, there is a growing contingent of people on the left who are quickly abandoning the idea of peaceful protest, but I think they're in the minority for now, and I think, because here's the thing, like, it's more effective. Like, I actually kind of spoke about this too already, so I won't dwell on it for too long, because I spoke about this in one of my other live streams too. It's more effective to basically be the victim of violence at a protest than to be the perpetrators of it. What do I mean by that? Well, it's more effective to get your message out there when video and films and video and reports come out of you being oppressed, and that gets displayed on the news and stuff like that. That's highly, highly effective. So what do you think, that's part of the reason why so many people have turned against the police in these, George Floyd protests against police brutality, right? Because the news is telling us one thing, right? You go on the mainstream media, the Fox Newses and stuff like that, and they're telling you, oh, it's all the protesters or a bunch of criminals, blah, blah, blah. And then you go on YouTube and Twitter and Facebook, and you're seeing videos of people getting shot with rubber bullets and the police popping people's tires, and guys who are minding their own business, have nothing to do with anything, getting brutalized, people getting the shit beat out of them, getting drugs planted on them, the police destroying property. All of that is one video of a cop beating somebody like that. I showed a video of a cop beating somebody and then putting a nightstick in the guy's hand, and then the dude would throw it and the guy would put it back in his hand so that you could justify beating him. That video is just having that video out there is 100 times more effective than any news broadcast. It's because you got to remember, what we're fighting for is not, it's basically hearts and minds. That's what we're doing. We're fighting to change people's minds, fundamentally, about what it means to be free, and what policing should be in the country, right? And who do the police work for? That's what we're changing, right? We're getting people to think about how it can be different. And we don't need guys with weapons that show up when you call them to help you and they end up fucking blowing you away. that's, wrong. We don't need shit like that. And maybe we don't need to send, police when, like, a guy has a seizure or something, and then the police comes and start punching him in the fucking face or whatever, because that's all they know how to do. Right? I don't know if you saw that video. Kind of sucks that I can't show these videos here with fear of getting fucking, my stream getting killed, Really wish YouTube would do something about that. But anyway, yeah, so that was kind of fucked up. I did want to kind of go over that. That whole run me over thing is like, it's just disturbing. It's disturbing the way that the country's going, Let's see. I wanted to talk about something else here. The other thing on my list, since we're on the Black Lives Matter protests, I wanted to talk about these two assholes in California who got caught painting over a mural. So if you heard about this, two people in California paint over a mural. Okay, stop. Well, that's an ad, whatever. Two people who painted over California Black Lives Matter mural charged with hate crimes. So if you haven't seen this video, go away. Basically, I think I could probably show this. I'm just gonna fast forward to the actual video of the people doing it. Here they are. So these two guys, wait, where is it? These guys right here were caught, two guys wearing MAGA shit were painting over this mural that the city put down, right, within hours of it being approved by the city. Those two guys have been caught and are getting charged with a hate crime. I don't know what crime that would be exactly, because I guess what they're doing is considered, what, destruction of of public property, maybe? Graffiti, something like that. I certainly don't disagree with it, I don't really have a problem with hate crime legislation myself, because, what hate crime legislation does is add a multiplier, so you can't really go to jail for a hate crime. What happens is, for example, let's say you assault somebody. You go to jail for assault, and then they add the hate crime on as a multiplier. So if you are only going to get 2 years for the assault, but since it's a hate crime, now you're going to get 4 years, something like that. That's kind of how it works. So it's sort of like, and the reason that, I don't have a problem with that is because as long as it's applied fairly, I don't have a problem with it, because a lot of the people that, the idea behind it is that they're not just perpetrating crimes themselves, they're spreading hateful ideals, which will put other people in danger, and that's kind of what that's made for. So there can be instances where maybe the hate crime multiplier wouldn't be appropriate. In this case, is it appropriate? I don't know. That's what the trial will figure out. I'm not going to try to say one way or the other. I just, in principle, don't have anything against, I don't see if there's anything wrong with hate crimes at all. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things that, I guess as long as it can be proven the motivation there was to spread hate, right? Then yeah, that's totally fine with me. I don't know. I know that's one of those things that's kind of like, very, very touchy with people, so that's kind of good. It's kind of sad that, like, what motivates somebody to do shit like that? You know what I mean? Like, if you see a mural you don't like, why would you be motivated? I guess it'd have to be something deeply offensive or whatever. Like, I could see somebody going out and say there's like a mural with a bunch of Nazi shit on it and wanting to paint over that. So that tells me that these people saw Black Lives Matter and it invoked the same kind of emotions in them that somebody, say, like, for example, a Jewish person who saw a Nazi mural would have those emotions, right? That's what it says to me, which is absolutely fucking ridiculous, I think. Oh shit, I just got water all over myself, sorry. Oh, sorry, it's hot as a fuck in here. I don't know if you noticed me sweating. That's absolutely ridiculous. That tells me that, first off, the fragile white people kind of thing is like really a real thing. And also, it tells me the Black Lives Matter people need to work on their messaging because if people. Now, here's the thing, the reason why I say that is because I bet you if you were to talk to those people that are doing that, that are painting over that mural, they would tell you that they don't believe themselves to be racist. That's exactly what they would say. They would go, I'm not a racist, but that's what they would say, right? Unfortunately, a lot of people in this country think that way. Unfortunately, that's just the truth. And not just white people, right? People of all colors and creeds and races have that same kind of mentality, I'm not racist, but I'm not homophobic, but I don't hate trans people, but right. And if you were to ask them about, what they really think, they would probably say something to the effect of, well, I don't care what people do as long as they do it over there, or it doesn't infringe on any of my rights, or as long as I'm allowed to say XYZ. Probably something like that. And that's kind of the thing that the modern civil rights movement has sort of focused on fighting, right? The reasons why you believe what you believe. Unfortunately, unfortunately, this is really, I think, the best we're gonna get with a lot of people. Thank you, Polidana Palace. Nice art. Thank you so much. Oh, right. Cody Course, Sunny Taylor was gender non-binary, not a female. Really? Oh, shit. So I guess what was that? Pronouns were they, I think. All right, thanks. You know what? I actually did read that. I completely forgot. So didn't mean to, insult her memory or anything. Sorry about that. See, there you go. Perfect example right here. Me, myself personally, I actually did read that. That her, or that their preferred pronouns were they and them. And it's completely just forgot. Slipped my mind. You know what I mean? And I would describe myself as someone who's, not bigoted towards non-gender, binary people, right? But, people say, people make mistakes, people say the wrong thing, even if they don't mean it. And I think getting back to those other people, like they would say the same thing. Those people in that news story who are painting over that BLM mural would probably describe themselves in the same way. And that's the thing is that, well, I think really this is the best we're gonna get, among a lot of people. Like, this is really, this is really it, and it's kind of fucking, I don't know, fucked up, but you know, we all have to learn how to live with each other, right? Let me see here, guys. Okay, hang on a second. There is so in Photoshop, there's a little tool that you can take and you can just smudge everything. And here I had to add it as here we go, smudge. All right. So what I've done here is put all of these flats. So now I'm going to take my little smudge tool and try to smudge a little bit of these guys together so that it doesn't look so shitty. So let's see. This might take a little while. Anyway. Yeah, and so I really think that it's a long, hard road ahead, right? And you can't oh, come on. Come on. Thank you. You can't force. Here's the other thing is you can't force people to take the view that you have, right? You can use lots of different, methods, right? Public shaming among them, right? Reason, you could try to appeal to their reason. Oh shit, this is just not working. This is not working. I'm trying to use my pen here. Yeah, all right, that's just not gonna work. Okay, okay, we're just not gonna do this. Let's just hit okay here. Ah, shit, that kind of really limits what we can do with this. Because that was the plan. The plan was to kind of smudge all this shit together, but I can't really do it in this program because this program sucks. So, how are we gonna do this? You know what I can do? I can export this to Photoshop and then kind of go in and smudge it and then put it back on here later. I guess I could do that. So, you know what? Why don't we draw a background for this then? Here's what we got so far. Here's our sort of dragon dudes. It looks a little better when you zoom out. It looks a little less rough, but eventually I'm going to go in and kind of clean all of this up and sort of blend all of this together, and it'll look a lot more comic booky, you know, a lot less coloring book. But let's put some kind of background on this. You know what, actually, I think I want to start something new. Because we've been working on this for like the last like 4 streams, so let's just make something new. Let's save that, and let's close that guy, and let's just make a new, you know, height 800 with resolution. That's way too small. 300 pixels. Sorry guys, give me a second. Actually, we probably don't need it to be that big. Let's just do 150. There we go. 8. 8.5. There we go. Actually, you know what? Let's see. What should we do here? I don't know. I think I'm just gonna start like doodling, and then how much time we got? We got an hour. Let's go for another maybe half hour, and then we'll see where we're at. And let's see. Let's go down to 46%. All right. And zoom in. So let's do something brand new here. Anyway, what else? I did have some other shit I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about Trump for a little bit, but I don't know. The problem is when you start talking about Donald Trump is that your entire stream ends up being all about Donald Trump, right? But I did want to mention the thing where he retweeted a white power video. I don't know if you guys saw that. That was kind of, you know, kind of goes to show you what he's really thinking, you know, because then he turns around and goes, oh, you know, the official excuse from the White House was that he didn't know. He just retweeted this thing without, you know, actually watching what it was, right? Hardness. Oh, you know what we got to do here? Can I make this brush? There we go. Opacity. There we go. How about that? Perfect. Okay. So, yeah, if you haven't seen that video, what happens is that basically it's a bunch of people in Florida at this, like, old folks home, you know, like retirement community. And apparently it's this really sort of really mega conservative retirement community called the Village or something like that. And people are like, you know, protesting, and then there's counter protesters, blah blah blah. And one of the counter right-wing counter protesters says white power, right? About 8 seconds into it. And of course, you know, Donald Trump retweets this. So that has led lots of people to think that Donald Trump is a white supremacist, which, you know, it's getting kind of hard to deny that at this point. Right? Like, you know, there have been hints here and there, you know, where he puts people like Steve Bannon in his administration. You know, Steve Bannon is basically a white supremacist, even though he's Jewish. You know, big surprise, you can be Jewish and a white supremacist at the same time. You know, just because you're Jewish, just because you're a white supremacist doesn't mean that you're a Nazi or an anti-Semite. You can still believe white people are superior and not be an anti-Semite, you know, right? So that's fucking, Steve Bannon is most definitely a white supremacist. You know, Sebastian Gorka, right? White supremacist, basically. Sebastian Gorka was like um, was actually part of a fucking fascist movement in real life, right? So, and then then he gets people like Jeff Sessions and like all these other like good old fashioned Southern fried bigots in his administration. So, yeah, the the hints were there, right, for a long time about Donald Trump and what he really actually believes when it comes to race and stuff like that. So then you get this thing. There's no way that anybody could have watched this and not heard the white power thing, right? Because it's loud and, you know, how do I unselect that? Escape. Hang on a second. Escape. There we go. Still learning this program, folks. Sorry. It's very loud. It happens very early in. Something roughly around 8 seconds, you hear somebody scream white power, and then not only do you hear that, you hear other people in the video yelling at that guy for screaming white power. So it's like very, very audible, right? So the excuse that he didn't hear it is complete and total bullshit. You know what I mean? So that makes you think two things. All right, so either he didn't watch the video, right, and just randomly retweets shit without watching it, which is like possible because we know that Donald Trump has like the fucking attention span of a small insect, right? That's 100% possible, but it's more likely that he didn't watch it and he only retweeted it because in the thumbnail, right, of the video there was a pro-Trump, like re-elect Trump sign. So that's, if I really had to guess, it would be that. It would be down. And then the third option is that he's just a straight up white supremacist and wanted to retweet it as a dog whistle to his base there, which is completely entirely possible. And I would have said a year ago that that was bullshit, but it's like it just keeps happening. It keeps happening over and over and over, right? So how many times does it have to happen before we were forced to admit that, yeah, maybe the guy actually is, a real life white nationalist, right? Like how many times, like how many little dog whistles, do we have to get before it becomes obvious that, yeah, he actually is fucking not only just a racist, but actually is a white supremacist. I mean, I don't think Donald Trump is a white supremacist in the same way that say somebody like Jared Taylor is, like wants a white homeland in the fucking Pacific Northwest. I don't think he's anything like that. I think what he is just basically a bigot, you know. People from New York, when they tend to be, in the, like, so there's different kinds of racism around the country. People in the South tend to actually be real bona fide white supremacists, right? People, of Trump's economic class tend to not like black people because they're poor, and they may even have friends who are black but are also rich, and so they tend to come more from the libertarian Ayn Rand school of bigotry, where it's sort of like, these people are poor and they're parasites, kind of thing. Less the black women, the black men are going to come and rape all the white women sort of bigotry, and more like they're parasites and they do nothing but suck away resources from the economy kind of thing. And you might get some racism, sort of that scientific racism in there. And the reason why they do this is because of genetics. You keep hearing Donald Trump say shit like, oh, he's got good genes, for example. That's where that shit comes from. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was really Donald Trump's mentality when it came to race. That, these people are non-white people are genetically inferior and that's why they're poor. I really would not be surprised at all if he took that more scientific racism angle, right? And it's like, it's just the evidence keeps piling up of that's what he fucking believes. You know what I mean? Like, over and over and over. Let's see. Clifford the Big Red Dog. America has actively gone against the idea of investing in the future, instead enjoying profits and short-term gains as long as they can. The collapse will be hard. It will. And that was kind of what I wanted to sort of segue into. Right. So we have one more massive crisis coming, which is probably going to hit before the end of the year, right? And that is the coming eviction crisis. Okay? So due to the coconut virus, the virus which shall not be named, right? We have, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people in the country who cannot pay their rent, right? And right now, the only reason that it's like, hang on, there we go. Okay, I'm trying to do this straight here. All right. The only reason why these people have not been evicted is because there's currently, in most places in the country, there's currently an eviction kind of moratorium, right? So you have all of these people who can't basically, something like between 20 to 30%, right, who are not able to make their rent, who are behind on their rent, and, the federal program to prevent, evictions or whatever, it doesn't forgive past rent. What it does is that it says, okay, you don't have to pay it now, but you will, once all of this is done with, right, then you will have to pay. That's basically what it says. So at the end of this, what's going to happen is that, okay, that provision is going to expire. And then all of these people who are not able to pay their rent are suddenly going to owe 4, 5, 6 months of back rent all at once, right? And, that's going to really fuck people up, right? And you would think that, that would be like something that they would have worked into it. You would think they would just say, okay, say for example your mortgage, the way it is that at the end of the term, then all of that's due, and you would think like they would just put it on the end of the mortgage, right? But that's not how it works. Basically, it's like, yeah, now you're gonna have to pay, that protection comes off, and now you have to pay the entire thing. You owe the entire thing at once. And then the idea being is that, okay, well, now you'll just go renegotiate with your bank or whatever, right? And this is like going to be a serious problem, because it's not just people in their houses that have this problem, that have, it's businesses. Lots and lots of businesses in this country are not able to pay their rent, not able to pay their, and they haven't, they've been basically holding on because, barely staying in business, because the economy is all depressed now because everything's shut down, and they only, gave us a measly $1,200, right? And like now shit is going to hit the fan once all of that comes due. And here's the thing, right? You can't keep it forever, right? So the most likely thing that's going to happen is that the government is going to see this, it's going to be like, oh shit, this is a problem. We're just going to extend the eviction moratorium for another 6 months. That's most likely what's going to happen. It's the easiest solution if you think about it. It requires no funding. They could just be like, another 6 months, bam. All that's going to do is kick the can down the road, But it can't be permanent, because all of those people that own the places that collect the rent aren't getting their money, right? And that means the banks aren't getting their money, and when the banks don't get their money, shit goes wrong, and bankers are powerful, and are they going to allow that to go on for another 6 months? Probably not. Right? So that's yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if they, if that doesn't pass, right? And it kind of makes you think, like, if it doesn't happen by the election, then and if they kick it down another 3 or 4 months, then the president that comes after Trump is going to have to deal with it. And that kind of leads me to believe that that might be the plan, you know? Like it might be the plan that, okay, we're gonna, like, the Republicans know that they're gonna get ass stomped in November, so they're just gonna kick this huge giant crisis down the road so that when Biden becomes president, the shit hits and they all blame it on him. Kind of the same way that Obama got blamed for the bank bailouts when it was shit that happened when Bush was in office. Right? If you remember that, Barack Obama gets blamed for bailing out the banks, even though that was a policy put in place by George W. Bush. And one of the things that the president has to do is if it's something that gets passed and it's a law, he's got to upload. He's got to, like, withhold the law. Like, the president can't just come in and be like, okay, I don't like this law, we're not doing this anymore. I don't like this policy, we're not doing it. I'm not supposed to be able to do that. I know that's shit that Donald Trump has tried to do, right? And that's not usually, usually there's a continuity of government, right? So if a law gets passed, if a budget gets passed or something from the prior administration, the current one has to abide by that. And they may try to change things here and there, but overall they can't just scrap something. So if there's, say, moratorium against evictions that's going to expire in January 22nd of 2021 or whatever, 2 days after President Biden takes office, I really wouldn't be surprised if that happens. It's like a ticking time bomb. And it kind of makes you think, it's like, why would you want to be president when all of this shit is about to, like, hit the fan, So I'm thinking that's actually the plan. I'm thinking that's the Republicans' plan. They're planning on, if we're going to lose, then we're going to blame the Democrats for all the bad shit that's about to happen over the next year. Now, what does that mean for us, right? That means that a lot of these businesses, who are barely hanging on right now, are going to go out of business, right? And if you think it's hard to get a job now, holy fucking shit. When 20 to 30% of all small businesses go out of business, you think, oh my God, it's going to be 20 times harder to get a job when that shit happens. Okay. I got an announcement. I've actually managed to find a job. I have been, myself, out of work since January of this year. I've talked about it a couple of times in my live streams. And I just got hired at a place, and I'm starting next week. And I'm actually kind of nervous because I haven't worked in like 6 months, right? But I'm happy. And I think, me, myself personally, I'm lucky. I'm very, very lucky that I am in such a position that I was able to take off that much time, and not end up homeless, right? And it's because, my wife works still. Thankfully, my wife has a really good job with a really good place that, doesn't tend to lay people off, so that's cool. And she makes enough money to pay for stuff. And I also had a lot of savings. I have, basically, I could probably go another year without working if I had to. And everything would be cool if we just sort of rationed stuff and I didn't buy as many toys. Right. That kind of thing. We could probably go a little while longer. And I'm very happy that I've managed to, but I'm the exception. I'm lucky. I think I got very, very lucky that this happened when I was in such a good position, right? Because many people out there don't have this same, don't have that ability, right? Most people out there can't afford, what is it? A $400 unexpected bill. Most people don't have enough savings to pay off a $400 unexpected bill. So, their tires go flat. They run over a bunch of thumbtacks or some shit, fucks up their tires. $400, bam. There goes their car because they can't pay it. Some shit like that. The carburetor goes out on your car, something like that. Fucking pipe breaks in your wall, and you got to pay $400 to a fucking plumber. Most people can't do that without some serious fucking hardship. So think about what's going to happen, man. What's going to happen when all of these businesses go out of business, right? Something like 40% of people in the country still work at small businesses, whether those are restaurants or small firms or whatever. Those places are all going to dry up, and what are you going to do? I mean, last time, out of the last economic crisis, it was the gig economy, which most people turn to, because, the crisis of 2008 never really ended. You know what I mean? Like, we had what was called a jobless recovery. What the fuck is a jobless recovery? It's basically, that means that we didn't have a recovery. You can't have an economic recovery without jobs, right? So the stock market went, basically what that means is the stock market adjusted to higher unemployment levels, right? And then, so then the unemployment eventually went back down after like fucking 6 years. I mean, it started to go down immediately, but it took a long time to get back to where we were, in 2008, the same level, right, where we were in 2008. It basically took the entire Obama administration was getting us back to where we were before the shit hit the fan. And now all of that's gone, right? So what are you going to do? Let's say that you work at a restaurant or something, and let's say you make decent money at your restaurant. Not everybody who works at a restaurant is making minimum wage. Let's say you work at a 5-star restaurant and you're making 60 grand as the maitre d' or something. That's actually true. People in really fancy restaurants make a lot of cash, right? And your restaurant has just gone out of business because it's had to be shut down for the last 6 months, right? And now rent is due, right, on that restaurant. And the restaurant owner is like, fuck it, I can't afford this anymore. And he just never fully reopens. Now your job is gone, right? Where are you going to go? Another restaurant? No, restaurants aren't fucking hiring, The COVID shit is still, it's still happening. That's the thing, is that people are pretending that, I better not say that word again. People are pretending that it's over with. It's not over with. They're starting to lock down again in places like Texas and California. Bars just shut down in California again, right? Because the numbers are spiking back up, right? Because this is what happens when you get lots of people in a big group, is that you get transmissions, and it's like, so everybody thought, they tried to reopen when the curve really wasn't depressed. The curve didn't actually go down. It was like up, and then it was still kind of going, and then it just sort of spiked way up again because they've reopened. So now they're going to have to shut down again. And it's like a lot of places that are shut down are just not going to reopen. So what are you going to do? What are you going to, like, fucking, are you going to deliver food, Grubhub? That's an option, right? Now you're going to have thousands of people delivering food. Well, I don't know if you know how Grubhub or Uber works, right? It's basically, you get a thing, you have your app, and then you get a 60-second notification whether you want to take that job and how much it pays or whatever. And the more people who are doing it, the less notifications you get because it cycles around, That's kind of how it is. So now somebody who's getting 6, 7, 8 little gigs a day, suddenly when there's an extra 5,000 people in their area, they're going to get one a day. You know, they're going to get 2 or 3 a week because there'll just be too many people driving Ubers. There's going to be too many people doing Grubhub or, you know, food delivery, shit like that. So that's going to like basically be a bust, right? So how are people supposed to make, how are they going to keep it going? You know, we already know that we're probably not getting another stimulus check, you know, because of the Republicans. Even Donald Trump realizes this shit. Even Donald Trump is saying we need another stimulus, right? And, you know, applaud the guy when he wants something good. You know what I mean? Like he wants to, you know, he's trying to do the right, because he realizes that if he doesn't get some money in people's hands, you know, he's going to get utterly curb stomped in the election. He knows that this is his only chance. The only thing he's got that was ever even slightly positive was the economy, and that shit's gone. And if it's still like it is now, when the election happens, you can kiss his ass goodbye. Forget it. That's his only recourse, you know. And the Republicans, you know, Mitch McConnell, he's not going for it. Mitch McConnell doesn't give a shit. He doesn't want to give us more money, so it's not going to happen. You know, that's like, so forget it. So, you know, in the meantime, what about us? What about the people here who are suffering, who need that, who are about to lose or about to get evicted, and about to lose lots of jobs, right? And we're basically screwed. We're screwed. So if you're employed out there right now, start saving your money. Save your money. You're going to need it this fall. This is pretty much, unless they, you know, if they kick it down the road, it'll be delayed, but it's still going to happen, right? The only way that this would not happen is if we had the political will to get up, and they're going to have to pass a bill that does debt forgiveness, right? They're going to have to pass a bill that says, okay, all of the rent and, you know, evictions and what people owe, the government's going to pay for that. Good fucking luck. Good luck. I don't think it'll happen. And you know what? I don't put the blame completely on on Republicans here either, right? Although I mean, you can pretty much guarantee that somebody like Mitch McConnell is not going to allow that to happen, right? But I don't think Nancy Pelosi would allow that to happen either, because she's basically standing around and letting Donald Trump hang himself right now, you know. So that's why we're not seeing any significant legislation getting passed by the House, you know. If the House is even in session, I'm not even really sure if the House is in session right now. But she's basically not going to pass anything that'll make him look good before the election, you know. And in some respect, that you know, politically, that's working. It's working. She's basically allowing him to hang himself. You know. Hang on, I need to see what an incense scepter looks like. What do you call those things when they have the priest has those hanging? You know what? Let's not do that. I was gonna put, there's like a word for that where they have the priest has this sort of hanging thing with incense in it. But I think, why don't we give him an hourglass instead, because that's also something that the Grim Reaper carries, an hourglass, right? So there we go. It looks like we're kind of going with a Grim Reaper looking guy here. See, I didn't really plan any of this out. I just started drawing, and it just sort of turned into a Grim Reaper. So let's see. Let's erase this guy, and he should be holding it like that, right? Is that how the Grim Reaper, or do they hold it like this? Yeah, let's do that. That looks more evil. Like, let's do something like this. Anyway, so yeah, like, so basically she's just sort of allowing him to stew, and, you know, giving him free rein and allowing him to dig his own grave. And it's working. It's working because, you know, Trump's approval rating is way, way down, even among Republicans, for like the first time ever. He's finally broken that In some polls, it's like a 36%, you know, roof. Like Trump has never gone below 36% in most polls, right? Usually he hangs out around 40, and recently he's finally broken through that floor. And I'm really getting the feeling that the Democrats' strategy is to just allow him to like continue on, you know, stewing and making a fool of himself, and not doing anything to address any of these problems before the election because they want his numbers to be extremely low. Because people are blaming all this shit on him. And yeah, you know, he deserves it. Don't get me wrong. He definitely deserves it. But in the meantime, a lot of the people out there who, you know, need help aren't getting it. Right? And that's kind of wrong, in my opinion, you know. And here's the thing, is that I even think if they tried to pass something, I don't think that the Republicans would allow it to go through anyway. Like, if they tried to pass another stimulus, I don't even think it would be, you know, I don't even think it would get through the Senate, you know. But, you know, look at, like, say, for example, Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is trying to get another, not just stimulus, but a, you know, $2,000 a month UBI. That's what he's trying to do, right? So it's like you can kind of tell who actually cares about people and who doesn't, right? Like, you know, I think we're really going to regret in the years to come, we're really going to regret not electing Bernie Sanders to the presidency, you know, because he has real solutions. That's the thing. You know, Joe Biden doesn't really, you know, have much in the way of solutions. You know, he will probably be better for the typical working American than the Republicans will. And I say that because most people in the country, you know, typical like the lower classes tend to do better when Democrats are in charge versus Republicans, and that's just you know, that looks like shit. We're gonna do that over again. Sorry guys. Let's just erase that entire thing. Ah, fuck. Undo. Step that. Can I just erase that? I don't know. I'm still learning how this program works. So let's just erase this entire thing. Let's make it like he's holding it like this by one of these things. Let's do that. Yeah, because that looks bad. Anyway, what was I saying? I was saying some shit about something. Yeah, I really think we're gonna regret in the years to come, in the next 4 years, we're really gonna regret not electing Bernie Sanders. You know, because Bernie Sanders actually has ideas of, you know, he actually has real proposals that would actually make a difference in people's lives. You know, so whether you're a progressive or you're not progressive, if you're just a centrist, or even if you're a conservative, whatever, right? I don't think any of that matters, because these problems that we're facing don't care what your politics are. Just because you're a conservative or if you're a centrist or whatever, that doesn't make you immune to losing your job or, you know, getting evicted, right? It doesn't make you immune to or catching a disease, you know. It doesn't matter what your politics are. These are all problems that all of us are going to face together, you know. And whether we like it or not, the only way to address these problems, to fix these problems, is to face them together, right? And the way our government is set up, it's set up so that in order to, if we're going to make any movement on these things at all, we're going to have to compromise. And that includes compromising with people that don't share your political, you know, not only do they not share your political, you know, opinions on various subjects, but they're actively working towards, you know, screwing you up, basically. They're actively working towards getting you out of power, you know. We're going to have to deal with that, and we're going to have to, you know, come together as a country. And, you know, the thing is, it's not like we haven't ever in the past, ever, because we have. You know, there have been problems in the country that we've worked together to solve. And sometimes we actually manage to solve them, you know. Polio, for example, right? You know, the polio vaccine. We eradicated polio, you know, and that was, you know, that was due to a lot of government, you know, help as well. I mean, I know that there was things like the World Health Organization and stuff like that, you know, and also lots of government spending on vaccination programs and stuff. You know, polio used to, like, you know, affect thousands of people, you know, and like entire generations of people would just be born and have like messed up legs and, you know, and it's like shit like that, you know, smallpox, right? You know, I'll kind of go in here. I'm just sort of sketching this out. This looks like shit, but whatever. We will deal with that later. I actually want to go and look. I've never really drawn an hourglass before, so this is all weird and like I'm just kind of blocking it in right now, and we'll kind of go in later. And I want to look up pictures of what an actual hourglass looks like. So, anyway, um, yeah, you know, the space program, for example. You know, we came together. We, you know, hundreds of thousands of people were involved in the space program, right? I mean, so it's like we are capable of working together. We are capable of making proper sacrifices and passing smart legislation and looking past, you know, looking past political differences. I mean, you know, it's not like this is all new shit that just suddenly started happening. It's not like suddenly in the last 20 years Republicans and Democrats started hating each other's guts. Conservatives, I should say conservatives and liberals and progressives started hating each other's guts and started actively trying to fucking remove each other from power and shit like that. It's not like this is a new phenomenon. You know, this is something that's been happening for decades. But when the shit hits the fan, people in the country have always managed to come together and do the right thing. And we can do it now. You know what I mean? We can do it now. And that's really, I think, most of, you know, because most of the people in the country are not ideologically, you know, most of the people in the country don't hate their opposition, I would say. Most of the people in the country are not people like Jared Taylor, you know, or something like that, who advocate for the murder of, right, of people that, you know, they hate. You know, most people in the country are not even like, say, somebody like a Fox News pundit, for example, that demonizes the other side or whatever, you know. So we're gonna have to, and we're really, that starts with voting in leaders who are capable of that sort of leadership. You know, you gotta, and that's really our biggest problem right now that we're facing as far as the government goes, you know, as far as policy getting made, stuff like that. The biggest problem we have right now is the leadership we have is, you know, probably the worst leadership I've ever seen in my entire life. You know what I mean? Even like George W. Bush, Ronald Reagan, even those people would reach across the aisle. You know, even during the Clinton years, when like, this is when the shit really started happening. This is when it really became a major problem, where the Republicans really started kind of throwing the rules to the wayside and like using the government as a weapon, you know, like investigating Bill Clinton for all of these ridiculous scandals that had like nothing ever fucking came of it, you know? All of this stuff, and like the only thing they can get on him was fucking him getting some oral sex and shit. Like, even during that, you know, era, right, there was still more bipartisan, like, you know, bipartisanship than there is today, right? And it's really because of, you know, because of our incredibly bad leadership, right? People like Mitch McConnell, you know, Mitch McConnell, I think, was probably the worst. If I had to name one person that You know, like if they gave me the power to remove one person from government at my choice, I wouldn't remove Donald Trump. I'd remove Mitch McConnell. You know, vote him out or whatever. Like if they basically came to me and said, okay, Mark, you're now God. You get to remove one politician, right, from office. It would be Mitch McConnell because he's kind of done more single-handedly to, you know, ruin our republic, in my opinion, than anybody else. I don't know, but we're gonna need to do this, and these are things that are gonna happen, and you know, I don't think we right now have we don't have the political will to prevent any of this, the worst effects of these things from happening. You know, I think the shit's gonna hit. I think lots of people are gonna go out and they're gonna protest even more, and I think that the majority of people in the country are gonna demand something, and it's going to hit a point where the people in government are going to have to do something, and they're going to give us a half-ass solution. You know, okay, you guys need help, here's another $1,200, you know, stimulus thing. Okay, here's, we're just going to delay, you know, we're going to delay we're going to extend the moratorium on evictions another 6 months. That's what's going to happen. You know, and that may buy us a little bit of time, but eventually we're going to have to face up to these problems that we have. And, you know, it's going to be us. It's going to be us. The Republicans, they don't give a shit. So count them out. We're going to have to do it without them. And this is really why, you know, more than anything else, why you need to go out and vote. Why you should be encouraging people to vote this November, because this is it. This is our chance to get the leadership that we need. You know, now a lot of people, because this is what always happens during every presidential election, especially when you have a very shitty president, what happens is that the opposition doesn't say, okay, our president is shitty. They say, well, there's no difference between him and the other guy. So that's what you get from, you know, when you get conservatives that are forced to admit that their politicians and their leaders are crappy. They never turn on them. They always just go well, both sides are the same route. And you're going to see that too coming in November. Yeah, well, you know, Biden isn't any better. And there's going to be lots of people on the left who are going to say the same things, you know. You're already seeing it. People like Kyle Kalinske, for example, doesn't like Joe Biden, right? You know, really doesn't like Joe Biden. People like, you know, in that sort of area, right? And even those guys, or like Jimmy Dore is another guy. I don't know if you watch Jimmy Dore. Really fucking doesn't like Joe Biden, right? And even though they'll admit straight to your face, yeah, he'll be better for the country than Donald Trump, but I'm not going to vote for him because XYZ, right? Those are the people that you really need to convince even more, you know, than, like, don't bother trying to convince conservatives and Republicans and stuff to switch sides, because they're not going to. You know, the ones that will have already decided to. You know, you're even starting to see, you know, for example, conservatives and Republicans and shit talking about Donald Trump. Those are the guys who have already decided to, you know, either vote Biden or not vote, right? Now we need to start convincing people on the left to get out there and vote, right? Because unfortunately, you know, although right now on the left we're very politically active, and there's lots of protesters and people like that, those people tend to not vote. They tend to not, you know, they're very active when it comes to protesting and sit-ins and that kind of thing, but they tend to not translate that activism at the ballot box, you know, because a lot of them don't believe in voting because they think it's like contributing to a system that oppresses people. And those are the people I think that we should try to convince to vote, because we need them. We need them, and we need to tell them, look, guys, this is it. This is your chance. You know, these are the issues that we're going to face. And if you have somebody like Joe Biden in office, you know, for example, Joe Biden has straight up said he's against universal health care. He doesn't support universal health care, right? Neither does Donald Trump. Well, if a bill comes across Joe Biden's desk for universal health care, the president's desk, if a bill comes across the president's desk to implement some aspect of universal health care, who has a better chance of signing that bill? Donald Trump or Joe Biden? Who do you think would do it? Right. There's zero chance Donald Trump will sign that bill. Right. There is a non-zero chance Joe Biden signs the bill. Because Democrats and stuff are actually beholden to the people who elect them. They actually care about polls and shit like that, and not only just polls, but they actually, they care about their constituents. And also, they understand the political ramifications if they don't support stuff like that. Because, here's the thing, the Republican won't sign it because the Republican constituents don't want that. And they can, justify it saying, okay, well, the people I represent don't want this, so I'm not going to sign it. Well, Democrats do want that. The progressives and the Democrats actually do want these things. They're the ones that want, and if we don't, so he's open to pressure, is what I'm trying to say. Right, so you want to get somebody in there, even if he doesn't agree, even if you don't agree with him politically 100%, he's somebody that's open to pressure, a lot of what happens is when for example, a Democrat or somebody becomes president or whatever, movements tend to die after that. If you remember back in 2008, after Obama became president, the anti-war movement went to sleep after Obama became president. And why is that? Why did they suddenly just die off? Right? Because they got a guy in there and they go, okay, our dude became president, he's going to end the wars. And then lo and behold, they stopped protesting. The wars didn't end. And it's like, well, no, when you get a guy in there that's open to your position, that's when you need to go out and protest even harder. That's when you need, so yeah, it shouldn't end. The protests, the police brutality protests, the anti-war protests, things like that. Those things, you should do it even harder. Once, if we get Donald Trump out of office, then it's time to step it up even more, right? Because now you got a guy in there who might actually do what you want. He's open to that. See, that's what people don't get. That's why we need him, you know what I mean? Let's see. Cody Course, your thoughts can be summarized as either get Donald Dump out of office this November, or the United States will cease to exist, will fail in a dictatorship. By the way, if Biden weren't open, he wouldn't be open to working with Bernie Sanders in his campaign. Yeah, see. So I don't know about that. I don't really have that fear that Donald Trump will try to institute a dictatorship. The reason why I'm not afraid of that is because he's an incredibly weak president. If you look at, you know what it is? He seems to be really good at using the rules to just basically steal shit that he wants. You know what I mean? But when he gets challenged, he tends to lose. So, for example, there was a big problem where he basically stole a bunch of money from the Pentagon in order to build a stupid fucking wall. If you remember that. That went through the courts. Courts ruled against that. So that's not happening. Right. Another example recently, there was 3 or 4 different Supreme Court decisions that were basically against Donald Trump. And in that respect, it's so I'm not afraid of that. I'm not afraid of him trying to, for example, stay in office past his, date. That's one thing you're hearing from a lot of people, oh, will he even leave office if he loses the election? I'm not afraid of that. I don't think we're at that point just yet. That now, in another 4 years, will we be at that point? I don't know, maybe, but right now, I don't think so. I think that if he, say, didn't leave, or tried to, steal the election in some way, if once he, lost, I think at that point shit would seriously hit the fan, and I don't think he has the support even among Republicans to stay in office. So, but that's just me. I mean, I could be wrong. I'm not gonna try to like. I'm just saying, me personally, I don't believe that. Now, he could try to do it. I don't know. I see that as highly unlikely because the main reason why, first off, I don't think the military would support that. If Donald Trump tried to just basically stay in office, not leave, not advocate the presidency or whatever the fuck he does, right? And what I think would happen is that, well, if he somehow prevented, let's say, somehow he prevents Joe Biden from taking the oath of office for whatever reason, the Constitution basically says that on January 19th of whatever year, the president will be sworn in. Right. And the current president is no longer the president. So, if he prevents Joe Biden from being sworn in, that doesn't prevent him from not being the president anymore. And so he's no longer the president. So then the vice president is no longer the president. So the third person in line for the presidency at that point is Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House. Right? So if he tries that, then she becomes president. And, now, of course, people are just going to say, well, if he just has like an army of fascists or whatever in the military or whatever backing him, then he'll just take over fucking Senator Palpatine style. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think he even has the military, because from everything you read about it, it seems like people in the military and like the intelligence community like basically think he's a fucking idiot, like the more you like read about like people like calling him a moron and stuff like that, and apparently like they're very careful with what information they share with him because they're afraid that he's like a pipeline to the Russians. Right? Because and so you got to remember like so that kind of brings up a news story that just came out, right, where this whole thing in Afghanistan where the Russians were like Soviets, right, where the Russians were paying bounties on American soldiers and shit like that, right? And so you got to think like Donald Trump, the response from the White House is that they didn't believe these were credible, which is bullshit, right? The thing is that something like that is, that would not be presented to him without if the let's say that came from the CIA, right? Let's just say the CIA told him that. I don't know if they did, but like the intelligence community, let's just say that, right? That wouldn't be presented to him if they didn't have good reason to believe it was true. Right? So intelligence isn't just something that they just make up. They don't just have guys standing around making shit up saying, I think this, I think that, right? This is all shit that they got reports of this. They got people in the field either from captured Taliban fighters or something like that, or chatter, overheard radio chatter or intercepted, communications, whatever. They have evidence that that's the thing. So nobody just made that up and just went to him and said, oh, we think this is happening. There's evidence that happened, right? Now that's not to say that, it could still be incorrect, because we know that, for example, let's say like this, for like an example that a lot of people on the left bring up is the fake evidence of Iraqi weapons of mass destruction that the CIA produced, right? Not necessarily the same thing. That was evidence that was produced at the request of the Bush administration, right? So, because I've heard that argument on several progressive shows. In particular, that's something Kyle Kulinski said. These are the, Kyle Kulinski basically doesn't believe that Putin or the Russians are basically a problem. He thinks it's sort of made up, like he thinks this thing, like with the you know, Russians paying bounties for murdered American soldiers. He thinks that is something that the you know that was revealed in an effort to stop us from pulling soldiers out of Afghanistan, because there's peace talks right now with the Taliban in order to actually remove troops from there finally. Right? And he could be right, you know but one of the things that he mentioned was, well, these are the same intelligence agencies that gave us phony weapons of mass destruction intel. But what he's forgetting is that that intel was manufactured at the behest of the Bush administration. So what essentially happened is that the Bush people said, hey, we want to invade Iraq, right? Give us a reason to, you know. And so they kind of came up with some shit. Well, here's some things that we've had rumors of. You know, here's some mobile weapons labs, shit like that, right? They put all of this stuff together, and then that's when Colin Powell went in front of the UN and gave that ridiculous, untrue speech about mobile weapons labs, and a bunch of other shit all turned out to be bullshit, you know? Then everybody turned around and blamed the CIA and said, see, the CIA gave them wrong information. Well, no, they gave them the information they asked for, right? And there was evidence of those things. It just turned out that evidence turned out to not be credible, right? But that was stuff that the administration put together. They got the evidence. They got the evidence they wanted from the intelligence community. They presented it in such a way that it made it look like this was a serious pressing issue, and that the Iraqis were creating sarin gas and stuff inside of mobile labs and all of it turned out to be bullshit, right? But that doesn't mean that the CIA was like had an agenda. Like, why would they do that? It doesn't make any sense. Like, so you got to kind of, it's intelligence is not, I mean, it is true. Yeah, they do have their own agenda, right? Which is their agenda usually is preservation of power in the region. That's their agenda, But in this case, it's like, I don't think, why would they make shit up like this? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make any sense that they would make this up. I don't know. But it is true. Anyway, kind of getting off of this. I'm kind of going off on a tangent here. It is true, though, that we also have news stories of how they limit information to Donald Trump, right? How they're sort of like leery of giving him intel because they know it's going to get passed around. Stuff like that. So if he's going to rely on these people, and especially the military too, I mean, not that long ago, you got to remember a couple of weeks ago, Donald Trump wanted to use the military to quell protesters, and they basically told him to like go piss up a rope, and that wasn't happening, and Trump backed off. I don't know if you remember that too. Right around the time where he like tear gassed those people in front of that church, he was talking about using the military to quell protesters, and it didn't happen, right? And that kind of tells me that, because kind of we went off on a tangent there for a little bit. That kind of tells me that he doesn't have the support that it would take to basically create a coup d'etat, right? He doesn't have it. So I'm not worried about that at all. I don't know. I do think that, though, that whoever, if Joe Biden becomes the next president, all of the shit that's happening now that everybody's ignoring is suddenly going to become Joe Biden's fault. And that's just how the cookie crumbles. That's how politics goes, They always blame everything on, and even if, shit that like very, very bad results from, effects, very, very bad effects of the bad leadership we're seeing now in regards to like, the pandemic and the coming economic collapse. It's all gonna land on him, and that's why we really need to like be active, we really need to be active. We really need to get leaders in there that care about people and that are ready to do the right thing, because they're going to be tested. They're going to be tested, you know. And basically, if Donald Trump wins, then we're fucking screwed. We're all screwed. You know, it's looking like he's not going to win, but we can't trust that for now, right? So assume that, you know, assume that he may win. We're, you know, so we should work hard to stop him, right? But yeah, man. Anyway, I don't know. Things that's what. So that's basically kind of why I named this stream. It's about to get worse, because it is going to get worse in a lot of ways, right? Over the next year. I mean, everybody says, you know, how bad 2020 is. 2020 is going to be, I mean, 2021 is going to be even worse. Seriously, especially economically, you know, and we haven't even gotten to the fire season yet. Jesus, I hope that we don't have any fires this year. Right. Kind of lucky that there weren't very many last year. But that's all I fucking need is for my house to burn down now. Shit. I hope that doesn't happen. Anyway, folks, to leave you on a depressive note, we've been streaming for 2 hours. Let's read through some, God, my hands hurt now. What do we got here? We got sort of a Grim Reaper looking dude. Yeah, looking pretty good. I think we took that other one as far as I can take it on with this software. I think I'm going to export that and put it on Photoshop and then probably finish up on Photoshop. But here, yeah, we're kind of looking not bad, not bad. I need to fix this ridiculous, really primitive looking hourglass thing. But, yeah, I guess the software is kind of cool, you know. Anyway, maybe we'll save this. Let's save this guy. And maybe we'll continue with this in whatever next stream we do next time. And, okay, guys, it's been 2 hours. Thank you all for joining me, Cody and Clifford. And I think this is the most, like, people I've had on a live stream, like, ever. Wow. Bad 66 and Puldana Palace. Thank you all so much for joining me. Anyway, before we go, let me just close this guy. I do have to do my ending spiel here. Let's see. One more thing, Cody Course. At least the military isn't kissing his ass for the time being, but that's no guarantee they won't get behind him. We have to apply public pressure to make sure Trump will only become a dictator or make his nation more authoritarian if we let him. Absolutely true. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think if given the chance, he would do it. Most certainly. I just don't think right now that, you know, I don't think right now he has the backing, you know. I don't even think he has the backing within his own party for that. But anyway, guys, I got to end this because it's been 2 hours and I really got to take a piss. So, let me just kind of go through my ending spiel here. You know, let's see. You get to see what my YouTube thing is. UCD videos. And there's my UC videos, guys. And then let me go to my Instagram. And then also my webcomic. Okay, so my ending speech. If you guys like what I do, then... Oh, wait a minute. No, let me just go to that. There we go. No, go back to my page. Go to my page. Why is it going to the creators page? What the fuck? Do I have to log... No, I don't have to log in, do I? Patreon.com/Hawanja. Isn't that where I should be seeing my Patreon? What the hell, Google? Why you gotta do this? Oh, that's why. Okay, fuck. Well, that kind of sucks. You know what? I have a link to it here. I don't know. Why was it doing that? That's kind of weird. Wow, I don't understand this. I don't know. Well, anyway, I have a Patreon, and you know, basically, you guys know my Patreon. It's at /Hawanja, but I don't know why it's not going to it right now. But anyway, if you like what I do, please support me on Patreon. I'll put a link to the bottom. And if you want to see more of my artwork, you can see more on my DeviantArt site here. God damn, I'm like sweating. There's like, my face is like shiny. I'm sweating so much. Fuck, it's like 90 degrees in here. Anyway, this is my you know, artwork. If you like what I do, please come check me out at Wanja here. Then also you can see me on Instagram at Dirty Kitchen Press, where I usually post comics, and most of the time I'll post sketches and things on here as well, you know, doodles and stuff like that. So more of my artwork you can see there. And then my other YouTube channel is called UCD Videos, and this is where I post things like toy reviews and video game streams and movie reviews and stuff like that. I did a review of the She-Ra Netflix show, for example, and stuff like that. So if you want to see some non-political content from me, it's on this UCD Videos. And then my last thing here is I have a webcomic, so at hawanja.com. And if you want to see my comics, this is hawanja.com. So I'm starting to redo all of these and recolor them and re-letter them so that they look nice. So this main one is about ninjas and stuff, and it's going to be very violent. And then I also have Dirty Kitchen Comics on the side here, where I do more sort of random comics, you know, webcomic kind of things. And anyway, so yeah, if you like what I do, please consider, you know, supporting me. And then also one more thing, if you don't want to join Patreon, you can go to my Etsy shop, right? And this is my Etsy shop, which is actually, I've been doing really well on this recently. So if you like what I do, you can, you know, but you don't want to join Patreon, you can buy something from my Etsy shop. I sell these scrolls here. This is one that I just made. This is actually a Lovecraft character, you know. And these things are big, 11 by 17 looking things. Let me take this out of the plastic so you can actually see it. All right, come on out. There we go. So these are big 11 by 17 prints where I stain each one by hand and kind of tear around the edges so that they all sort of look like they're like, you know, made out. It kind of feels like leather after I'm done with it, but it's actually paper. And yeah, so if you like what I do and you want to support the channel, please consider buying something. And I think that's pretty much it for me. Thank you all so much for joining. Thank you, Cody. Cody, dude, you should like start a channel, dude. You got some like good things to say, seriously. And thank you, Clifford, your big red dog. Thank you for joining, and thank you, Polana Palace, and anybody else who joined, Bad 66 Chevelles, and some other. Anyway, guys, adios, and we will probably